Hi, welcome to your second video about the School Assessment Coordinator Checklist for 2017-18. Last time we talked with you about access testing. Today we're going to talk about MCA testing. So I am back inside the Google Doc called 2017-18 SAC Checklist, which you can find in the Leadership folder. So I want to start by reminding you that access testing starts on January 29th. Each of your ESL teachers is setting their schedule. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because prior to testing, you have already made sure that all of your office staff, your building custodians, anybody that has a master key has signed their paper non-disclosure form. This non-disclosure form not only works for access testing, but it also works for MCA testing. So I just wanted to start off by reminding you of that. I also wanted to remind you, this last bullet here, that your testing calendar should currently be on your school website with specific dates and times of MCA testing. That would be what you know. So if right now all you know is that third and fourth grade or third grade is going to test on April 12th, at least get that posted on your calendar before January 29th. So moving down in this document, I want to first just talk about MCA tasks, and you'll notice that the MCA tasks are all highlighted in blue. So the first thing I want to start with are the main things that you need to be working on in February. In this video, I'm going to talk about what you need to do in February and March in preparation for testing, and then we'll come back to you probably early March or maybe middle of March with a video that talks more about what you need to do during testing in April. So to start with, the first thing you're going to do sometime in February, so you've got 28 days to get this done, is make sure you can access Pearson Access Next. So your user ID was your school email address, and your password, well, you actually set it. So I don't know what it is. I can't look it up for you, and I also can't reset it. So if you're having trouble getting in, you can try forgot my password. And when all else fails, just call Christy. Now for our new SACs and new administrators like Adriana and Libby, you will have received an email today, January 25th. It will have come from Pearson Access Next, and it will have all of your login information. If you're having any trouble, please also contact Christy about that. So that's your first task. Your second task is going to be to work collaboratively with your building staff, your tech pro, whatever your process is, to actually develop your assessment schedule and make sure the tech pros have reserved those devices for testing so that teachers don't think that they have them at the same time. Two things to note is that special education staff have already submitted their MCA and MTOS accommodations for students with IEPs. There's nothing you need to do about that. That was all done prior to January 5th. And then the second thing is, if you're looking for some help in developing your assessment schedule or wondering what best practices might be, Christy or I are happy to help you with that. The state also provides a training module on that. If you click on the hyperlink here, the Minnesota Assessment Training Management System, it'll take you to a video that the state's put together. So those are two things that you've got the whole month of February to take care of. You need to, by February 9th, set up your date for test security training with Christy. She'll come out to your site and do this. The training's going to take about 45 minutes. She's going to need a projector, a space where everyone can see that projector. Any staff that will be a test monitor or in a room during testing has to complete the training. So if you have paraprofessionals that support, you're going to need to have them at this training. You also need to make sure that your tech pro is at this training. Elementary principals, I know many of you like to claim the first Wednesday for this training. So first one that calls Christy gets it. The others will have to find another time. The training window is February 26th through March 23rd. We ask that all of you have your training scheduled and taking place prior to spring break. Then following that, no later than February 23rd, we ask that you communicate the date, time, and location of that training with whatever staff need to attend. Christy will create the class in PD Express for your staff to sign up. She'll also actually give you the email that you can just forward to staff, but we don't know who exactly at your site needs to attend that training, so we ask that you communicate that. It will be your responsibility to make sure that everybody receives training. So you want to try to get everybody that that's going to need training at that training if at all possible. Also think about if you have paraprofessionals that need to attend and you schedule a training after school, well, will they actually be able to attend? So think about that when you're picking your date and time. So that will round out your responsibilities for February. So then moving into March, there are a few more things you need to do. So sometime in March, prior to spring breaks, we've got 23 days, is to make sure that students have been prepared for testing. You'll likely just want to make sure that teachers are using the item samplers and or a student tutorial to get them familiar with the MCA. You'll also want to, sometime in March prior to spring break, make sure that the devices have been prepared for testing. It's not your responsibility to prepare the devices, but it is your responsibility to verify with your Tech Pro that the devices are ready. One thing I want to point out about this is you want to make sure that the Tech Pro is constantly looking for updates. One of the things that we've had happen in the past is that we've updated devices, let's say in February, and then not made sure that they had the most recent updates. This particularly has been a problem in the past with HPs, and then something doesn't work right on testing. So please just make sure that you're connecting with your Tech Pro regularly to make sure that the devices have been prepared. We ask that within the first 9 days of March that you prepare your test rosters. In doing this, you need to do two things. So first, identify the class rosters for large group testing. This is as simple as saying students are going to test in their homeroom. Then we also need you to identify all small group testing rosters. And when we say all small group, we mean everything from the small groups of special education students that might be testing due to their IEPs, any small group testing that's occurring because of a student's 504 plan, or any small group testing that you might have taking place for other reasons. Please make sure that those get submitted no later than March 9th so that we can have the test sessions prepared for you when you return from spring break. When you're creating those small group testing rosters, if you're wondering what format works best for Christy or what she's looking for, just click here on this small group testing roster template. You don't have to use that specific document if you don't want to, but it does give you an example of what she's looking for or the information that she needs so she can create those rosters for you in Pearson Access Next. Then I'm going to skip the next two because they apply to MTOS and Access, though note that the Access window and everything with Access is all wrapped up in early March, and move to your last task of March. So by March 9th, you need to have submitted to Christy the testing schedule for all subjects. And when we say that, what you need to do for your testing schedule is actually make sure it's set up, identify the grade, the subject, and the class that are testing, where they're testing, what's the specific time, what devices are being used, and give that to your Tech Pro. It's your Tech Pro's responsibility to actually enter that into a common Google Calendar called Assessment Schedule. But in order for them to do that, they're going to need it before March 9th because we're looking for it to be in that Google Calendar prior to March 9th. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask. This assessment schedule is super, super important when we get into testing, as Christy and I go through it to make sure that we're communicating with the right people on the right days. Many of you know that sometimes things happen and a Tech Pro might be sick. And if we don't know your testing, Dave and our office may not get the right sort of support there. So it's really, really important that this gets completed. You also must verify that your testing schedule on your school website matches the schedule you've submitted. So we ask that by January 29th, you have your schedule on your school's website. Let's say as you're building schedule with your staff, you decide to make some change. And no longer is third grade testing on April 12th. Now they're testing on April 14th. Well, you need to make sure that that gets posted on your school website. One of the big reasons for this is MDE does monitor school websites. And if they're going to come and make a visit, they will check those school websites. So if you say that you're testing on April 12th and they show up on April 12th and there's actually no testing taking place, we will be in violation. Both you as the SAC and us as the district assessment coordinators will be in violation of our own security procedures. If you're not sure what's in security procedures, please see the Leader Weekly from last Friday, which would have been January 19th. On March 9th, you also need to have submitted your small group testing rosters. And if there are any 504 accommodations